أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه وبعد. We talked last time about the importance of where to start in seeking the knowledge and how to focus on a subject of your interest or your passion about and then branch off from there. Today I want to focus on a couple of other aspects. Do you have to follow a certain school or madhab? And what does that mean? Does the madhab only in fiqh, jurisprudence, or we have also madhab in the study of tafsir and study of hadith and study of aqidah, even linguistics and all that? They're like this madhab or school. Does it only belong to fiqh, jurisprudence, and the impact of that? I mean, I'm not going to go, of course, I'm not going to go in depth where the different rhetorics and different philosophies and, using logic and all that. Now, I'm not going to get to that aspect because it's more confusing than benefiting, especially at this stage, being like in the beginning. Also, I want to focus on the practical aspect of knowledge. Living the knowledge, believing in the knowledge, understanding it, implementing it, like living it. And the value of that and the impact of that on the study itself. So those are the 2 points I wanted to emphasize on today. Of course, whatever we say in these sessions will be more clear, will be clearer and more profound and makes more sense when you listen to specific courses that I gave in this class before. Namely, the etiquettes of seeking knowledge and the ideal Muslim. The etiquettes of seeking knowledge and the ideal Muslim. Put those two together and those will be like the signature courses of any sister who wanted to seek knowledge and who wanted to be a role model. Listen to the series labeled the etiquettes of seeking knowledge first and take notes. And whenever I mention or I refer to something, try to search it and try to see that book of reference to really live that etiquette. And then go to ideal Muslim, because this will humble you and will make a purpose. Like you find a purpose in seeking knowledge based on the etiquettes of seeking knowledge. You'll find a purpose for being a Muslimah, a female Muslim mother, wife, sister, daughter, leader in the community. You feel the purpose. That's ideal Muslim. So those two, one will sharpen your seeking knowledge skills and give you a purpose and will put it in perspective. So you'll know exactly there's a structure. And also you know what your character as a Muslim and the value of that. So those 2 courses I really recommend to all of you and sisters. And also one point that many beginner students of knowledge that they overlook or they don't pay attention to is going back to the courses or the books that you finished and studied. You have to go back. It's like you're reviewing the Quran. Quran is nothing like Quran, but like you review the Quran on a daily basis, like there are books that you have to go back to every now and then. Even courses and classes that I taught, I find myself going back and seeing my notes. And I even listen to myself. The etiquettes of seeking knowledge, for example, I explained it like 3 times. And each one of those times I added some more based on my knowledge that is expanded to a certain extent. So it affects what I give. Now, when I'm listening to it, I also tell myself, oh, that was a good point. Now I need to repeat that and the Sunday lecture program, for example, Sunday morning lecture. Or I need to add this part, or I should have said that, or how come I said this, like things like that. So it's very important to go review exactly what you studied before. That will keep you in touch, keep things present in your head, keep things relevant. You relate them to what you have, you edit and modify, and so on. Yeah. So, first point that I mentioned, if you following, what was the 2 points I said that I'm going to focus on today? If anybody writing or anybody taking notes.
So whether or not we should be following a certain madhab.
Yes. Okay. So basically the point that I wanted to mention first is like, what is a madhab? What is a madhab? Madhab means a certain way of approaching, understanding, or implementing something. That's what a madhab is. ذهب, يذهب means he went. Somebody went on a certain path. So madhab is the path that somebody is taking. So when I say this person ذهب or هي ذهبت, she went, ذهب, where did they go from? That's called a madhab. That is how they went. So they went through that path. So the madhab is the way, the pathway that somebody adopts to understand an issue. So, for example, whenever a verse says, "O you who believe, do such and such," what is my madhab in understanding this do such and such? Is it the order is always an obligation unless something that shows it is not an obligation? Or it is the other way around, it is not an obligation until something shows it is an obligation. So this is how you understand. That's how what is a madhab? Madhab is like how you understand something, how you comprehend the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Sometimes different schools have different rulings, but based on the same hadith, but each of them understood it in a different way. So understanding is how you construe something based on the information available. So that's a madhab in understanding something. So you have an information available, and that information can be understood in different ways. Also, that madhab is how you implement something. How do you implement something? So you choose a certain way of implementation. There are various ways. You pick one of them and say, this is how I'm going to do it. When you understand that, then it is not one is correct and one is incorrect. But there is a variety. It's difference of variety, not different of proposition, not difference of proposition. So that's a madhab in implementing things. There is a madhab in teaching something, a method, yeah. There's a method. Like, the way I'm teaching you is interactive. I ask a question, you ask me a question, so on. Somebody lectures. Pedagogy, it means like a teacher teaching. That's why this peda means, or pedo in Greek, means relating to children. Okay? And goji is a speech or teaching. Pedagogy means teaching of the children. Means the instructor is teaching them, so on. Andragogy means it is like, when the student decides what they want. So it's more fitting for adults. So that's method also in delivery. So method in understanding, method in implementing, method in delivery, that would be called madhab. So madhab, whenever we say madhab or maslak, like Indian subcontinent will call it maslak. Same thing. Maslak means suluk, means the pathway. So madhab, maslak, same thing. And means the way that a certain group of people adopts in understanding, implementing, and delivering, matters of jurisprudence. That's what comes in our head. And we have the four great madhab: Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i, and Hanbali. They were not the only four, but those are four documented, or students of people seeking it, people implementing it, people delivering with it. And that's why they became very famous. But before them and contemporary to their times, and after them, there were numerous other madhab. So a great scholar will say, that's how I understand the text, and many students will learn from him and start applying it. So we have, from the time of the Sahaba, you have the Abdullah ibn Abbas, and he established, and his school in Mecca became the school of Abdullah ibn Abbas, that they take from Abdullah ibn Abbas everything that the way he understood the Quran and the Sunnah, he taught his students, and they became practicing like that. Then the school of Ubay ibn Ka'b and Zayd ibn Thabit in Medina, right? And this is the time of Sahaba, right after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then you have the students of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud in Al-Kufa. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, Sahaba of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so on. You have Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, and Abdullah ibn Amr in Egypt. And you have Abu Darda in Damascus. You have Anas ibn Malik in al-Basra, Iraq. Okay. Now, from those came prominent tabi'in. So you have, from Abdullah ibn Abbas, you have Tawus ibn Kaysan, you have Ata ibn Abi Rabah, you have Qatada ibn Da'am al-Sadusi, you have Mujahid ibn Jabr al-Makki. All those are prominent students of Abdullah ibn Abbas, who became the faqih, or the jurists of Mecca. While in Medina, you have Salim, Mawla Abi Hudhayfa, you have Nafi' from Abdullah ibn Umar, يعني who studied from Abdullah ibn Umar, and Nafi' al-Madani, not Nafi' of the Quran qira'at, but Nafi' of the Hadith. And you have few other faqih of Medina became later on, like Sa'id ibn Musayyib, others, who learned from Abu Hurairah and others. Then from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, you will have students who studied from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, came in Ibrahim al-Nakha'i al-A'mash, Zir ibn Hubaysh. Okay. Those learned from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud in Kufa. Basra طبعا many learned from Anas ibn Malik, and then Egypt many learned from Amr ibn al-As and his son. Then comes a generation after that who learned from those or from their students. Now, Imam Malik appeared in Medina, who was a student of Nafi', who was a student of Abdullah ibn Umar. Imam Malik became a scholar of Hadith, and he started giving fatwas based on the understanding of the fiqh of people of Medina. Even among in one of his madhab, the fundamentals of his madhab, amal ahl al-Madina, the practice of the people of Medina, because he's very close to the Prophet ﷺ, so he saw the people doing certain things, even if there is no clear ayah or hadith talking about that practice, but he said this is how the people of Medina used to do things, and only in Madhab Malik that. So Imam Malik became prominent in Medina. But before Malik, there was Madhab of Sa'id ibn Musayyib, or Sa'id ibn Jubayr, or Sa'id ibn Jubayr, or many people in Medina, they have their own Madhab. and people studied from them and all that. Imam Malik became very famous because he is the first one to start making rules for what he says. Okay, and people start writing, documenting exactly what he says. And he made the book on Muwatta, which is collection of hadith based on actions. What did the Prophet do in certain situations? So he's having a mas'ala or a section, and then he write the hadith narrated in that. In Iraq came Imam Abu Hanifa, who was a contemporary of Imam Malik. Abu Hanifa, a little bit older, of course. He's the first one who established that school. But Abu Hanifa was more into the structure and ijtihad and opinions and working your mind and exerting your effort, mental effort. So there are lots of reasons for that. It's not like he's ignoring the Sunnah or the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. There were many reasons. The nature and the circumstances in Iraq was different from that in Medina, where Imam Malik is the children of the Sahaba and the Tabi'een around him, and only the Sunnah, the Hadith, so he's stuck to that. But in Iraq, the issue is different. Lots of opinions, and there is the Persian philosophy and all of these kind of things. And the narration of the Hadith has issues in Iraq and all that. So Imam Abu Hanifa established this school based on what he was surrounded with. In Egypt, there were Layth ibn Sa'ad at the same time of Imam Malik, and Layth ibn Sa'ad. He was the faqih or the jurist of the people of Egypt, and they had the Madhab al-Laythi. It disappeared because there was no students writing or documenting that like Imam Malik. So Layth and Malik, they were both contemporary. Even Imam Shafi'i studied under both. And he said that Layth has more knowledge than Malik, but his students wasted him because students did not take him seriously and document everything he said, like Imam Malik. His students used to come from all over the world and they write and say, Malik said, Malik said, Malik said, Malik said. So a big collection of what the statements of Imam Malik became the madhab of Malik later on, and they followed his patterns. And that created madhab. Abu Hanifa, they followed also his patterns and his structure. Even he allowed his students to differ with him in opinion. Then came after them Imam Shafi'i, who is chronologically after. Shafi'i did not see Abu Hanifa. Abu Hanifa died before Shafi'i became whoever he is. So he studied under the students of Abu Hanifa, like Muhammad al-Hasan al-Shaybani and Abu Yusuf Yaqub ibn Ibrahim al-Ansari. He studied under them. He studied the Madhab of Abu Hanifa from them, and he studied under Malik himself. Muwatta from Imam Malik, he studied under Malik himself. And Malik used to respect Shafi'i a lot and give him a lot of gifts when he was leaving and all of that. So Imam Shafi'i went to Mecca after that, and then he went to Iraq, Baghdad also. And then he went to Egypt after that. And this is where his madhab completely changed when he went to Egypt. And that shows also how the jurists change some of their madhab or their approach to things when they have different exposure to different facts and different information. They change. It's not like what people think now, that they're stuck to something and they don't want to change. Then Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal appeared also in Baghdad, in Iraq. When contemporary to them, there was like the Awza'i في الشام, and you have Sufyan al-Thawri. Sufyan al-Thawri, most of the Hanafi madhab is coming from Imam Sufyan al-Thawri. I mean, he did not differ with the Hanafi madhab except in few masail, 11, 12 masala or something like that. But again, Imam al-Thawri, because he was running away from tyrant rulers and go from one place to another, there was no chance to get that knowledge from him. And after that, other Imams came, but those Imams were so prominent and people adopted their knowledge and their fiqh. They were satisfied with the way they handle, fatwas and issues and responding and talking about everything. Then their students started making the madrasa now more structured. and started saying those are the opinions of Malik, those are the opinions of his students and the third generation after them, and how the Maliki school, approach certain aspects. It's not only how they understand and construe from the text, but how they practice in the salah and the siyam and the hajj and all that, and then how they deliver and how they promote their madhab and defend it against others who differ from it and so on. And every madhab does that. So basically, this is a general background about the schools. So it's not part of the deen that you have to follow a school, unless you want to know the dalil or you want to imitate. So you can imitate a school to be on the safe side. That's fine. But that's not like you're not a Muslim if you don't do that. No, it is safer for your religion. It is better. It is lesser risk of making mistakes when you start understanding things on your own, when you don't have the tools to understand everything on your own. So then it is safer to say, I'm going to follow the Madhab Hanafi. Why? Because I'm surrounded by scholars of Hanafi if I live in Pakistan, India, or I'm surrounded by scholars of Shafi'i if I live in Egypt or Malaysia, Indonesia, and all that. I'm surrounded by Maliki if I live in Morocco and Africa and all North Africa and African countries. I'm going to follow Hanbali if I live in the Gulf areas of Gulf countries. So that's fine. If this is the case, that's fine. Because you're going to find, Imams, and they are uniform. There's conformity and uniformity of opinion. So you're not going to get lost. Like somebody's going to give you like a different opinion. That's the good thing about following them. But if you're in a place like the United States, what you do, then we say that the layperson, a layperson is not an insult, by the way. A layperson is not studying like fiqh academically. His madhab or her madhab is the madhab of the mufti. You ask an imam of a masjid, what is this? So they tell you. So you follow. You're not going to tell them you are a Shafi'i, Hanafi, or Maliki. If you have another issue, you go ask another imam, and he gives you fatwa according to Maliki, well, the other one is Hanafi, that's fine too. So it's not a problem for you to keep changing. But you do not shop for fatwa and pick one. Now you make yourself an imam to choose now. That's the problem. That is the problem. You choose someone that you think they are good knowledge and all that, and don't ask anybody after them. Because someone for sure is going to give you a different opinion. Then you're going to pick and choose based on your desire, based on your comfort. And then you're going to come up with a new religion because you are the one who's picking. Now, are you picking based on knowledge or are you picking based on desire? Picking based on desire. Because if you are picking based on knowledge, then you don't need to ask. You need to inquire yourself because you have the tool now to weigh every opinion against the proofs based on which that opinion came out. And you have that power and that authority and that skill to choose which one is stronger. But it's not like I ask Sheikh Mamdouh and I ask Sheikh Salah and I ask this and that, and I think I'm going to pick Sheikh Mamdouh because it's easier. Now that's haram to do that. Okay? So you don't have to follow a madhab per se, unless you want to study it academically. And to say I'm following the Hanafi or Maliki, Shafi'i or Hanbali, the scholars said the standard of the minimum accepted standard is that you study all the fiqh, the simplified fiqh, one word per mas'ala. You can do this, you can do that. That is strong, that's halal, that's haram, that's mustahab, that's sunnah, that's makruh. On everything from the beginning of the section of tahara, going through all the prayers and worship, the pillars of faith, pillars of Islam, the rules of Islam, and rules of tahara, rules of salah, siyam, zakah, hajj. And then you go to the rules of nikah and divorce and custody and child support and all of that. Then you go to the rules of family law, and then you go to the rules of penal code, like violations and all of that, until the end of the fiqh. So you study one book of fiqh with a qualified scholar of that school, that madhab. Now you can call yourself a Hanafi, Maliki, Shafi'i. Other than that, we're not. You are just imitating the culture. And that's why I tell people here, when you are in the United States, what is the benefit of saying I'm Hanafi or I'm Shafi'i? Please don't want. Because if you are living in Pakistan, you are imitating the whole culture, which is based on the Hanafi madhab. Now I understand. from Egypt or imitating a culture based on Shafi'i madhab. Yeah, it's okay. Even if you do not study, everybody's praying Shafi'i. Everybody's doing qunut in the Fajr. Everybody's doing that. So that's what Shafi'i is. So are you from Egypt? Yes, you are following Shafi'i. Even if you do not know what does that mean, you are actually following Shafi'i because this is going with the flow. But now you have a country like the United States that has from everywhere, and people are born into this culture, or they are not practicing Muslim, and then they become practicing Muslim. Then how they can say I'm Shafi'i based on what? Did you learn from someone? Did someone tell you what Shafi'i is? Or are you surrounded by a culture that you just do like them? If neither, then you cannot call yourself either. And that's why I'm amazed sometimes when a person comes and says, Sheikh, I want to have a question. I have a question, but I want you to answer me Hanafi. I'm not in the mall here, fiqh mall, or fiqh shopping center, or the fiqh store, It's not that. It doesn't work like that. So you ask me a question, if you think I'm a scholar, and you take my answer and just go do it. That's how you save yourself, right? So you don't have to follow the method in that sense. Again, I don't want anybody to quote me in generality and say, Sheikh Mamdouh said, don't follow madhab. I didn't say that. So I think it's safer for you. You understand what you're doing by studying it academically with a qualified sheikh from A to Z, one book of fiqh, very simplified. Or you are surrounded by a culture who practice that madhab, and there is no way that you're going to make a mistake out of it because everybody's doing that. You ask how this is done, they will tell you that's how it's done according to that. So if you are not either one, if you did neither, then you are not going to assume or claim either that you are a scholar or you are a follower of that madhab. Now, are there madhab in other branches? Yes. Even linguistics, yeah. Even linguistics. In Nahu, sometimes they say, according to the people of Basra, this school says that this thing has fatha, في الإعراب. And in Basra, they say, no, it is mabni. It's only stated in one case, fatha, but the other one has fatha, kasra, dhamma. Okay. قبل وبعد. Some said قبل وقبلا وقبل. Some said, it's always قبل. So there is a madhab here that say that this one here has a one haraka that sticks to it at all times because it does not have i'rab. The declension doesn't change. So one case. While others said no, and each one had their proofs and all that. So there is a madhab in Nahu or Sarf. In linguistics, there is madhab. Not as strong as the madhab of fiqh. Because fiqh is ibadah and you do that every day. That's what gives it importance. Now we come to the sticky part or the thorny part, as the aqidah is. The madhab in understanding the characteristics of Allah, there are madhab in that. Some of them wrong, some of them not wrong, but they are wrong in certain concepts or comprehensions. But there are madhab. Sometimes you can handle it in two different ways, not one way. As I said again, fiqh madhab, whenever we say madhab, it goes to the fiqh because this is what we live according to every day. So because this is what we do every day, that's why we always talk about madhab in fiqh, not madhab in aqidah or madhab in linguistics or madhab in hadith. That's not the case. But the outcome is you do not have to follow a madhab in the way that I mentioned, with the restrictions I mentioned. Unless you want to study it, that's honorable, that's good. So if one of your sisters want to says that I wanted to study fiqh Hanafi, because I'm interested in that and I heard certain things about it, my advice to you, stick with that. Don't jump up and down and don't jump and change from Hanafi to Shafi'i. Stick with the Hanafi because this is the etiquette of seeking knowledge. Stick with the Hanafi madhab, know their usul, know their fundamentals, know they have the process the dalil, their proofs, how they understand the hadith, understand the Quran, what are the principles based on which they construe from the dalil, the hukum from the dalil, the ruling from the proof, and so on. And then you're going to study the fiqh according to their madhab after you study the usul and understand. That's great. Actually, we need sisters like that, to give fatwas and understand, teach the other sisters salah. At least there is a qualified person who teach according to one madhab. That's good. I'm not against that, actually. I would support that 100%. Even my mother is different. My mother is Hanbali, but I encourage that. If there's a sister who knows the Maliki madhab and she's very strong at it, absolutely, bismillah, have halqa and teach. Shafi'i, same thing. Hanbali, same thing. Hanafi, please, So this is the way. But I don't want people to be confused that I'm Hanafi, Shafi'i, this and that, and even they don't understand exactly what they're talking about. Right? What was the second point that we said we want to talk about?
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. This is Maimuna. I think you talk about like how to implement it, like how to make it practical, the knowledge.
Yes. So living it, right? Living what you study. That is one aspect that we all lack. And subhanAllah, I got that after a long time and in a certain stage of my life, which was recent, the last 10 years of my life. I turned 40. That's when it settled, when actually I understood what all the Sheikh used to say all the time. So the best way to retain knowledge is to practice. The best way to retain knowledge is to practice it and teach it. Of course, discuss it with others. So 3 ways. 1, you practice it yourself. You study it with someone, or you teach it to someone. Practice it yourself has pros and cons. The pros, of course, that you already practiced it. So that means you lived it. It is not something written in the books only, but you are living it. The cons of that is, the con of this one is that if you did not understand it right, if what you perceived was wrong, then you're going to practice it wrong. So what is the solution for that? Mentorship. Mentorship. Like, I studied wudu all the time. I was never satisfied until I asked always my Sheikh, Sheikh, show me how the wudu of the Prophet ﷺ. And when I see, after I saw and observed, I said, now can you watch me and approve of my wudu or not? And then he'll say, no, this face is like this, wash it like that. And so that is the solution for the con of not doing it right. So you have to, like you studied it theoretically, you have to see it practically so you can implement it. I hope this point is clear here. So imagine if you do that in every aspect, that you'll learn that it is applicable, that it is practiced, that to practice it like that, but take it out from the realm of being theory or written in the book by doing it. That's why we did in the Mazhab Mamdouh workshop, Janazah workshop, Salah workshop, because we want people to have hands-on, like we want to see the wudu itself, how it is done. The Salah itself, how it is done. The Hajj itself, how it is done. Like, we go over the pictures by PowerPoints, by videos. So that's how it is. And then you ask, how do I do this? I tell you, that's how you dress, and that's how you do that, and that's how the sa'i is, and how that is, running between Safa and Marwa, and all of that you show, and you see it done from your student. So that's the pros and cons of practicing something. So living it. You read about the importance of Quran, but you recite it. You see an ayah talking about salah on time, then you start practicing salah on time. You see the Prophet ﷺ saying, come Jum'ah early, then you start going to the Jum'ah early. Prophet ﷺ said, fasting Monday and Thursday will earn you the reward of Allah. All your sins of the week will be forgiven. Then you start fasting, and so on and so forth. So you practice what you are learning. You live it. I use the word living it. That's why I always say, love Quran, live Quran. You have to love the Quran to be able to live it. You're not going to live something by some code while you hate it. It doesn't work like that. Okay, so that's the implementation part on your own. Study it with somebody that actually will strengthen the implementation. So that's not how it is done. No, I thought let's stop, let's ask our Sheikh, let's ask someone else, let's bring in another student. So studying it is very good way of affirming and retaining the information that you took. So that's very important. Studying it with someone. SubhanAllah, sometimes you don't understand something, and when you start talking about it to someone else and they're listening to you, it's amazing. It's a barakah of that Allah Azza wa Jal brings that understanding. So you do not understand it well yourself, but once you start explaining to someone, you say, oh, okay, now I myself understand. Because sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want to bless you with understanding because you are now trying to help someone else. So then you get that gift, right? And teaching it to others while you are teaching others how to pray, your prayer becomes better. Where I'm teaching others how to recite Quran, my own recitation becomes better. So studying it with someone brings you the good understanding, and teaching it to someone brings you more understanding and better quality in doing what you are preaching. I hope it's understood until here. So you have to make that knowledge implementable. It's very important that implementability, you have to something implementable. Like I want it to be implemented. I wanted to see this verse of the Quran in front of me. الذين ينفقون أموالهم بالليل والنهار سرا وعلانية لهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. Those who spend their money secretly and openly at night and during the day, they will truly have the reward with Allah Azza wa Jalla, and there's no fear and no sadness for them. So I want to practice that for yourself. I want to practice that. So tomorrow morning, I spend a sadaqah, I give him a sadaqah in the masjid, I give him 80% sadaqah. And at night after Maghrib, I give layl wa nahar. Sirran wa alaniya, there's two different ways of each. So openly and secretly. So during the day, I do one day time openly, one day time secretly, one night time openly, one night time secretly. That's 4 different ways. So I practice that now and I feel it. So when I read that ayah next time, I know how it feels. I know exactly how it feels, how it should feel. So this brings a joy to what you do, and brings also that dimension of implementability, that I know how it feels like when it's implemented. I understand it better because I studied with my peers. That's why they say peer-reviewed paper, right? So you wrote a paper, and your peers reviewed it, and now when you give it, many people of your peers, they looked at that. Then the public gives you the feedback, and then you go and improve yourself based on all of that. So it is good that your peers studying with you and correcting you, while the consumers or the people who will enjoy the product or the article or the lecture that you give or the material that you distributed or the knowledge that you provided, that's good that they give you the feedback on that. So you improve your quality as well. So these things I wanted to mention for today. I know we're not taking long classes, but I try to make sure that you can retain whatever mentioned. And let me know if you have any questions, please. So far, so good?
Okay, the questions. At what point that you can share, like if you share and you thought you know it correctly, but how do you know, at what point do you know that you are at the level where you can share?
Okay, good. That's a very good question, by the way. You are assuming that everybody is the same level, but you will know based on whom you want to share with. You want to share with a peer of this class, means your sharing now is for learning more. You want to emphasize, oh, I did not understand what the Sheikh said in that aspect. There are a few points. One of them is ambiguous. What did you get out of that? So now you are sharing to learn more and strengthen each other's knowledge. Now, if you mean sharing with the general public, you have to look at them. The safer, the lower their level than you, the safer it is to share. Because, when you're sure that they do not know what you learned, so it is good to share with them. And don't be scared that I might have understood it wrong. It's always be the case. You don't intentionally share information you're not sure of. You don't do that. But sometimes something slips in the middle, but Allah Azza wa Jalla forgives that. But you will always share only two things. Now you have to understand. One, you only share what you're 100% sure of, and there are a lot of that you don't share. And share it with someone who absolutely do not know it or they don't understand it. So now you are very sure of your material that you will teach. I'm going to teach the wudu. I attended a workshop with Sheikh Mamdouh wudu. I attended the wudu, the wudu ins and outs. I learned all of that. So now I'm going to teach children how to do wudu. Children do not know how to do wudu. That's number one. And number two, you are providing them something that they do not know at all. Is that clear? So now you're in the safer. Now, if you go choose someone who knows the wudu that are in high school, now you have to be more careful on how you're going to give the wudu. But still, if the wudu, you are certified to teach wudu and you 100% sure of that, you are evaluated by that, by your teacher himself or herself said you can go ahead and learn, teach this wudu, and you learn everything about it. It doesn't matter the age, but you're not going to go discuss wudu with the students of College of Sharia. You're not going to discuss with them because they are going to crush you. They're going to come and talk about wudu nitty-gritties. They'll talk about intricacies of the wudu,
So I guess I'm thinking of more like if you run into someone that, like you say, that doesn't know, and they ask you, okay, can you teach? And then it's better to teach what little you know than to turn them down, correct?
Yes, and if you remember before, whenever you are presented by a problem that you need to make a solution for, don't rush and make a solution for it. You have to know exactly what is needed. What is needed? Like someone said, I want to be a good Muslim, I want you to teach me. Well, that's very broad, right? Very broad. Tell me exactly what you want until you come down to the Tahara and the Wudu. Said, yeah, I can teach you that. But I wanted to learn Salah on all four Mazhab. No, that's not mine. You know what I mean? So choose exactly what you do. Okay. And teaching the little that you have is better than not teaching at all.
Okay. Exactly.
Right. Anybody have a question? Sisters? يا أخواتي الكريمات, my generous sisters. Generous here has nothing to do with money, by the way. Honorable, طيب, what I will do is I will stop here, and please Sister Mariam and everybody, come up with a suggested list of topics that you want us to address, especially things that it is relevant to our time. Inshallah, we're preparing a workshop at the masjid toward the end of the year about divorce and its impact on the individual, family, and the community. We will also prepare for a premarital workshop, but there are something called, next year I'm trying to focus on the family for a whole year. In all my programs, I want to focus on the family ties and the solution of marriage and strengthening the marriages and families and all of that. So that's next year. So this year, we're trying to prepare for that through that workshop, inshallah. So keep it in mind and stay tuned and talk to everybody about it. We're going to have a workshop around October or so about the dissolution of marriage and its impact on the families and the individuals and the community, and how to move on after, and how to avoid it in the beginning, and all of that, inshallah. Right? Jazakumullah khairan wa alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. Thank you so much.
Jazakallah khairan. Assalamu alaikum.